Hola amigos! This week's read aloud is called Rainbow Weavers, and it's one of my new favorites. This is the first time I've read it, but I really like this one. This book is about a girl named Ixchel. Now her name is spelled her name is spelled Ixchel, but instead of the X sound that we know in English, it's pronounced sh. So it's Ixchel. So this is a very common pronunciation in Mayan culture. She is from Guatemala, and a long time ago in Guatemala there was a group of people, a civilization called the Mayans. And if you want to learn more about the Mayans, I've included a brain pop and something that you can read about the Mayans later in the slides below. So this book is about the tradition of Guatemalan people and Mayan women of weaving. So Mayan women have a tradition of weaving beautiful fabrics on a loom. A loom is a frame used to hold fabric for weaving. If you want to see some real people weaving, I have also included a couple videos below. So before we start, I wanted to show you the glossary. So this says the glossary and pronunciation guide. It's important to pronounce things from someone else's culture correctly because it shows that you honor and respect their culture. Now, the author actually gave us these pronunciation guides because they thought that we might not understand some of these words or might not know how to pronounce them. So while I'm reading, I'm going to make sure I'm going back and checking the pronunciation guide so I know how to say these words correctly. Rainbow Weaver, Tejedora del Arco Iris, by Linda Elovitz Marshall. High in the mountains above Lake Atlan, Ixchel watched her mother weave thread into fabric as beautiful as a rainbow. The fabric had blues as clear as the sky, reds as bright as the flowers, and yellows as golden as the corn. "Mama," Ixchel asked, "may I weave too?" Her mother shook her head. "Not now, Ixchel," she answered. "This cloth is for the market. If it brings a good price, it will help pay for your school and books." En lo alto de las montañas sobre el lago Atitlán, Ixchel observaba a su madre tejer el hilo y convertirlo en una tela tan hermosa como un arco iris. La tela tenía azules tan claros como el cielo, rojos tan brillantes como las flores, y amarillos tan dorados como el maíz. «Mamá», le preguntó Ixchel, «¿me dejas tejer?» Su mamá negó con la cabeza. «Ahora no, Ixchel», le respondió. «Esta tela es para el mercado. Si puedo venderla a buen precio, nos ayudará a pagar tu escuela y tus libros». In and out, in and out. Ixchel's mother and neighbors wove on backstrap looms. They wove as their mothers, grandmothers, and great-grandmothers had done before them, as Mayan women had done for more than 2,000 years. After a while, Ixchel asked, "Mama, may I weave now?" Again, her mother shook her head. "Count threads with me, my love. I'll show you how we make designs." Ixchel and her mother counted together. Hun, Kai, Oxe, Kaje. With each additional color, the cloth grew longer and the design prettier. Ixchel reached for some thread. "Please?" she asked. "No, my love," answered her mother. "You are still too young and there is no extra thread." Entra el hilo y sale el hilo. Entra el hilo y sale el hilo. La madre de Ixchel y sus vecinas tejían en telares de cintura. Tejían como sus madres, abuelas y bisabuelas, y como las mujeres mayas lo han hecho por más de 2000 años. Después de un rato, Ixchel preguntó, «Mamá, ¿puedo tejer ahora?» Su madre volvió a negar con la cabeza. «Cuenta los hilos conmigo, mi amor. Te mostraré cómo hacer diseños». Ixchel y su madre contaron juntos. Hun, Kae, Oxe, Kaje. Con cada color adicional, la tela se alargaba y el diseño era más bonito. Ixchel trató de agarrar el hilo. «Por favor», le pidió a su mamá. No, mi amor, le respondió su madre, todavía eres muy pequeña y no tenemos más hilo. So it's really clear here that Ishel wants to help. She wants to help her mother weave. It's obvious because she says it like 3 times. She asks, please, can I help? And she says, can I help now? Why do you think that Ishel wants to help weave so badly? I'm wondering if it's because she's very caring and she wants to help her family. Ishel crossed her arms and studied the hard-packed dirt of the yard. I want to weave. I want to help pay for my books and school too, she thought. But she didn't say anything. Instead, she walked toward the milpa, the field where the villagers planted corn, beans, and squash. Plastic bags littered the path. Day after day, more bags were tossed from windows of passing vehicles or discarded by people returning from market. No one could use all the bags, and there was nowhere to put them. Ishel se cruzó de brazos y estudió la tierra apisonada del patio. Quiero tejer, quiero ayudar a pagar mis libros y mi escuela, pensó. Pero no dijo nada y se dirigió a la milpa, el terreno donde la gente del pueblo plantaba maíz, frijoles y calabazas. Había bolsas plásticas por donde quiera. Día tras día, y cada vez más, las personas lanzaban bolsas desde las ventanillas de los vehículos o cuando regresaban a pie del mercado. Nadie podía utilizar todas las bolsas y no había lugar donde ponerlas. I want you to take a look at Ishel in this picture. Look at her body language and look at her face. She's got her arms crossed. She's kind of making this kind of face. What does that tell us about how she's feeling? I mean, I want you to try it right now. Cross your arms. Make this face. How do you think you would feel? Probably pretty sad. It seems that she's pretty disappointed, pretty upset that her mother told her she can't help weave. I also noticed that the author said that she wanted to help pay for her school and pay for her books. This shows me that Ishel is pretty responsible and she wants to take responsibility and help her family pay for school. Pushing the bags aside, Ishel gathered branches and sticks. Some of the sticks were long and some were short. She carried the sticks and branches home, then tied them together. What are you doing? A neighbor asked. Making a loom, Ishel answered. Her mother smiled. But Ishel, she said, we don't have any extra thread. I know, Mama, she answered. I won't take any. Ishel apartó las bolsas y empezó a recoger ramas y palitos. Algunos eran largos y otros eran cortos. Los llevó a casa y los ató. ¿Qué haces? Le preguntó una vecina. Hago un telar, respondió Ishel. Su madre sonrió. Pero Ishel dijo, no tenemos más hilo. Lo sé, mamá, le respondió Ishel. No voy a usar hilo. Ishel tied one end of her loom to a tree, then she gathered tall blades of pajon grass. Sitting on the ground, Ishel joined the blades of grass together by knotting the end of one blade to the end of another, until she made a long chain. Then she pushed the batten over and under, back and forth, turning the blades of grass into fabric. When the fabric was finished, it was too small to be a doormat or even a placemat. It was too scratchy to wear as a bracelet. Worst of all, it was a dull greenish white. The fabric was far too small, far too scratchy, and far too dull for anyone to buy. Ishel knew it would never sell. Ishel ató un extremo del telar a un árbol y cortó unas hojas de hierba de pajon. Sentada en el suelo, Ishel unió las hojas de hierba, anudando un extremo al otro hasta formar una larga cadena. Entonces le pasó la espedilla por arriba y por abajo, por delante y por detrás, y la hierba se convirtió en tela. Cuando la tela estuvo terminada, era demasiado pequeña para ser una alfombrilla o un mantelito individual. Era demasiado áspera para usarla como pulsera. Y lo peor era de un opaco color blanco verdoso. La tela era demasiado pequeña, áspera y opaca, y Shell sabía que nunca la vendería. I'm noticing that Ishel is experimenting with other items and other materials she found around her village and on her walk to make her weaving. What does this tell us about Ishel? It tells us that she's a risk taker, right? She's going out of her way and trying a new thing. That's pretty cool. I also think it's cool that she's recycling. She's using and reusing other items to make her product. Disappointed, Ishel took another walk. Climbing the path villagers took to bring sheep up the mountain, she saw a clump of black wool hanging from a branch. Ishel tucked the wool under her belt. She noticed more clumps of black and white wool dotting the grasses, sticks, and plants. Ishel gathered this wool and tucked it under her belt too. Decepcionada, Ishel salió de nuevo a caminar. Al subir por el camino que la gente del pueblo tomaba para llevar las ovejas a la montaña, vio un trozo de lana negra que colgaba de una rama. Ishel se metió la lana bajo el cinturón. Se fijó en que más hebras de lana negra y blanca moteaban las hierbas, los palitos y las ramas. Ishel recogió esa lana y la guardó bajo el cinturón también. At home, Ishel turned and twisted the wool, spinning it into a long, thick strand of yarn. Then over and under, back and forth, she pushed the batten and wove the yarn into fabric. En casa, Ishel torció la lana hasta formar una hebra larga y gruesa. Entonces pasó la espadilla por arriba y por abajo, por delante y por detrás, y la lana se convirtió en tela. Ishel looked at what she had woven. The fabric was thick and heavy. The colors were boring. Tiny pieces of grass and dirt were stuck in the fabric. The weaving was far too thick, far too boring, and far too dirty for anyone to buy. Ishel miró lo que había tejido. La tela era gruesa y pesada. Los colores eran aburridos. Diminutos pedazos de hierba estaban metidos en la tela. La tela era demasiado gruesa, aburrida y sucia. Nadie le quería comprar. Ishel failed with the grass, and now she's failed with the wool. It's pretty disappointing. Do you think that Ishel is going to give up? Honestly, I don't think she's going to give up. I think she's going to persevere and never give up. Because I think she's really motivated and determined to help her family out. Tears rolled down Ishel's cheeks. There's no way my weaving will sell in the market, she thought. No way I can help. Wiping her tears, Ishel headed towards the milpa again. Along the way, she kicked aside a plastic bag. Red, purple, orange, green, yellow, and blue bags were everywhere. They were in the fields, drooping from branches, and clogging roads and ditches. There were so many bags, it was hard for her to walk. Las lágrimas rodaron por las mejillas de Ishel. No hay manera de que mi tejido se venda en el mercado, pensó. No puedo ayudar. Enjugándose las lágrimas, Ishel se dirigió a la milpa otra vez. Por el camino, apartó con el pie una bolsa plástica. Había bolsas rojas, moradas, anaranjadas, verdes, amarillas y azules por todas partes. Estaban en los campos, colgando de las ramas y obstruyendo caminos y zanjas. Había tantas bolsas que era difícil caminar. Angry, Ishel picked up a bag. She ripped it to shreds. Suddenly, she had an idea. Enojada, Ishel recogió una bolsa. La rompió en tiritas. De pronto, se le ocurrió una idea. Ishel gathered bag after colorful bag. She took the bags home, washed them, and hung them to dry. Now what are you doing? Another neighbor asked. Ishel smiled. You'll see, she answered. Ishel recogió una bolsa tras otra de diferentes colores. Las llevó a casa, las lavó y las puso a secar. ¿Y ahora qué haces? Le preguntó otra vecina. Ishel sonrió. Ya verás, respondió. By the next day, the bags were dry. Ishel cut each bag into long, thin strips. She tied the strips together. Sitting at her loom, Ishel pushed the batten over and under, back and forth, weaving until she had used all the strips. Al día siguiente las bolsas estaban secas. Ishel cortó cada bolsa en tiras largas y finas. Las ató unas con otras. Sentada en su telar, Ishel pasó la espadilla por arriba y por abajo, por delante y por detrás, y tejió hasta usar todas las tiras. The fabric was short, but it was clean and colorful. It had blues as clear as the sky, reds as bright as the flowers, and yellows as golden as the corn. The fabric looked like a beautiful rainbow, almost as pretty as the weavings of her mother, grandmothers, and great-grandmothers before her. El tejido era pequeño, pero estaba limpio y lleno de calor. Tenía azules tan claros como el cielo, rojos tan brillantes como las flores, y amarillos tan dorados como el maíz. La tela parecía un hermoso arco iris, casi tan bonita como los tejidos de su madre, sus abuelas, y sus bisabuelas.
I want you to take a second and look at the picture on this page. Take a look at Ishel's face. She has the biggest smile on her face. I want you to give me the biggest smile. Go like this. How are you feeling when you have a big old smile on your face? I know that I feel really, really, really happy when I have a big smile on my face. So that must mean that Ishel also feels that way. On this page, Ishel is feeling so happy because why? She didn't give up. She persevered. She kept going and made the most beautiful fabric.
Wondering what else she could make with plastic bags, Ishel headed back to the milpa. As she gathered more bags, the path looked cleaner and the countryside prettier. Preguntándose qué otra cosa podía hacer con bolsas plásticas, Ishel se dirigió a la milpa. A medida que recogía bolsas, el camino lucía más limpio y el campo más bonito. When Ishel returned home, her mother and neighbors were waiting with colorful plastic bags. "We saw what you were doing," said a neighbor. "We wanted to help." "And without the bags everywhere, our village looks pretty again," said another neighbor. Cuando Ishel regresó a casa, su madre y las vecinas la esperaban con bolsas de diferentes colores. "Vimos lo que estabas haciendo", dijo una vecina, "y queremos ayudar. Y sin las bolsas tiradas por todas partes, nuestro pueblo vuelve a lucir bonito", dijo otra.
I love that through all of this, Ishel not only helped her family by making a fabric, but she also helped her village, helped her community. And she cleaned everything up and made it look beautiful again. I want to challenge you. How can you help your community this week? I want you to brainstorm. What is something that you can do to help your community just like Ishel helped hers?
Ishel thanked them. Then she handed the weaving to her mother and said, "My first rainbow." Her mother hugged her close. "It's beautiful, my love," she said. "Thank you, Mama," Ishel said. "But do you think it will sell?" "Let's take it to the market and see," said her mother. Ishel les dio las gracias. Entonces le dio el tejido a su madre y dijo, "Mi primer arco iris." Su madre la abrazó fuerte y le dijo, "Es hermoso, mi amor." "Gracias, mamá," dijo Ishel. "¿Pero crees que se venderá?" "Vamos a llevarlo al mercado y ya veremos," dijo su mamá. At the market the next day, Ishel and her mother watched as people walked by the stalls. Finally, a woman stopped. She picked up Ishel's weaving and asked, "Did you make this?" When Ishel nodded, the woman smiled. Her weaving sold, and for a very good price. Al día siguiente en el mercado, Ishel y su madre miraron a la gente que se paseaba entre los puestos. Finalmente, una mujer se detuvo. Miró el tejido de Ishel y preguntó, "¿Tú hiciste esto?" Cuando Ishel asintió, la mujer sonrió. Su tejido se vendió y a muy buen precio. Ishel beamed with happiness. Now she could help pay for her books in school. and like her mother, grandmothers, and great-grandmothers before her, Ishel had woven a rainbow. Ishel estaba radiante de felicidad. Ahora podía ayudar a pagar sus libros y su escuela. Y como su madre, sus abuelas y sus bisabuelas, había tejido un arco iris.
I hope you loved the story Rainbow Weaver just like I did. Just a reminder, I have some extra things down below in the other slides that are about real people weaving and the Mayan culture. So I encourage you to check those out. Adios!